All right, in today's video, I'm going to take a look at gold. It's doing pretty much what I expected. Gold tends to complete these intermediate bottoms different than stocks. Very often stocks will just kind of rocket launch and V out of an intermediate bottom, but sometimes that gold will do that. But more often than not, gold will like waste the entire first daily cycle kind of going sideways. The gold cartel will throw everything but including the kitchen sink at the market to try and keep it suppressed. And especially now with the narrative that the Fed is trying to fight inflation, there's going to be a lot of pressure to try and keep gold contained. It doesn't do their narrative any favors at all if they're trying to control inflation and gold is surging higher. So there's going to be a lot of attacks, and I've said this many times in the past, and you can take this one to the bank as well. The cartel is going to win a lot of battles, but they are not going to win the war. So trying to trade metals is going to be very difficult. You can see coming out of, I think this is probably an intermediate cycle low, but coming out of this intermediate cycle low, there's just been an ongoing battle back and forth to try and keep gold suppressed below this 200-day moving average. The fundamentals, of course, because we do have inflation and it's going to be here for a long time, are trying to push gold up, and the establishment, the Fed, the government, would like to keep gold suppressed and try and control that inflation narrative. So we've just got a huge battle back and forth, back and forth. Very difficult to trade. If you are trying to trade this, you're probably just losing money. When I recognized this was going to happen, like over a year ago, I suggested people convert most of their metals from a trading account into a physical silver and maybe some physical gold, and in those vehicles you'll be able to survive these attacks, and you won't be whipsawed. You'll just hang on until the war is over. But so this has some implications here, and I've gone over this multiple times in my reports as well, that breakouts that occur early in an intermediate cycle tend to produce sustained moves, but breakouts that occur late in a cycle usually don't, and those will tend to be those false, like bull traps, so to speak. So in order to get a breakout above this 2090-ish level, let me widen this chart just a bit so you can see we've got this double top here. In order to get a breakout above this, we need an intermediate cycle to get up to this point early, because there's going to be a pullback and then a second attempt before you can break out. And if we can get there early in a cycle, like during a first daily cycle, then we have the potential to break out. And this is becoming a very large base. So when this breakout occurs, gold is going to go a long way. I would say minimum it's going to go to $3,000. But it seems unlikely at this point that we're going to do it, because we're wasting this entire first daily cycle chopping sideways as as the cartel fights to try and keep gold suppressed below that 200-day moving average. So I don't think the breakout's going to come on this intermediate cycle. I think at best we're going to waste this first daily cycle. Maybe we start to get some momentum during the second daily cycle, and we might test these all-time highs during that second daily cycle, or maybe even a third daily cycle. You can kind of see what happened here during this intermediate cycle. So here was the beginning of the intermediate cycle advance, and this was the top of the intermediate cycle advance. So you can see the first daily cycle went nowhere, and we're kind of doing the same thing here. We're just going nowhere. Second daily cycle made a higher high, but it didn't get a lot of follow through, and it came kind of late in this daily cycle. So again, the principle applies. Breakouts that occur late in the cycle don't usually produce sustained moves, and that's what happened here. And then we come down and we get our second daily cycle low, and then we get our third daily cycle, and this is where we finally start to get some momentum to the upside. and we get a breakout above this resistance, and then another breakout above this resistance, and we get this big move that really pushes price a long ways above this 200-day moving average, and we test this high here. But again, we did it very, very late in this intermediate cycle, so little chance of a sustained move. It would have been maybe possible to get a breakout here, but it would almost certainly not produce a sustained breakout. It would be one that would fail. But as we saw, there was an immediate attack the very next day to push gold back below 2,000. So it's pretty clear that the cartel wants to try and keep gold pinned below 2,000, and then we get this another test of 2,000 here during this daily cycle, and again another immediate attack to stop that. So we've got a line in the sand here. They don't want gold above 2,000, and as I said, they're going to win some battles, and they're winning. They won this battle, but they're not going to win the war. Ultimately, the fundamentals are going to win out over the manipulation, and at some point we're going to get a first daily cycle in an intermediate rally that tests this early. We'll probably get a pullback from that. Again, they're going to try and prevent gold from confirming that we've got runaway inflation. So we would get a pullback from that, but then I think on the second attempt, I think it would break out. And because this is becoming such a long base, the rule is the longer in base, the higher in space. So the cartel actually is not doing themselves any favor by preventing this from breaking out and extending this base longer and longer. The longer they extend this base, the higher it's going to go when the breakout occurs. And that's why I say at some point we're going to get this breakout. We're going to get a rally that tests this early. We're going to get a breakout, and because they've extended this for such a long period of time, it's I would say the odds are very good that once we get the breakout from this resistance, we're going to go to 3,000 pretty quickly, probably in 6 months. 6 to 8 months would be my guess, but I don't think it's going to come during this intermediate cycle. So we usually have a rally into the early fall, into September. So I think we're setting that up now, but I think this first daily cycle is going to just continue to churn sideways, and we'll have some kind of a retest of this low at the next daily cycle low, and then we'll try again on the second daily cycle. And maybe we get a little bit more upward momentum on the second daily cycle, and maybe it's the third daily cycle before we can get up here and maybe test this again. But I think we've lost our chance for a breakout here, because they've trapped gold going sideways here as they try and pin it below the 200-day moving average. So we're losing this first daily cycle, and we really needed this first daily cycle to get some strong upward momentum. We really needed to test 2,000 again during this first daily cycle to really have any hope of a breakout occurring during this intermediate cycle advance, and we're just not getting it. And I warned traders this was likely to happen. We would probably go sideways during this first daily cycle, and if we did, then a sustained breakout above 2090 was probably off the table, and so I think it is. But I do still think that this intermediate cycle is likely to test this level again, so that would be some decent profits. But if you're trying to trade, especially this first daily cycle, the cartel's probably going to whipsaw you to death. You're probably just going to lose money. So I think you've almost just got to take a position, grit your teeth, and try and hang on through the whipsaws and the attacks, and get to that second or third daily cycle that finally tests this top, and then realize that it's going to be late in the cycle, and you probably want to sell that, because we're probably not going to get a sustained breakout, and then we'll come back down again. So that's what I think is probably in store for the rest of this year. Some more chop here, and eventually a little bit later in the summer, early fall, we'll probably get another test of this. We might even get a marginal breakout. We might even get a marginal breakout above this, but it's almost certainly going to come too late in the intermediate cycle, and and then there'll be more attacks to stop that, and it'll probably be next year before we could maybe get a sustained breakout. So probably not during this cycle. So just adjust your expectations accordingly. At this point, I think I would expect a lot of chop, a lot of hard, difficult trading, a lot of whipsaws, but eventually we'll get a retest of this high, and then be prepared to take profits and get back on the sideline, because we probably got more sideways to go here.